Hello.
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 Well, it's a delight to be here this evening. We represent Walkers Britain. We'll tell you a little bit about ourselves, and of course, we're here to talk about the South West Coast Path. But perhaps if we start by introducing Walkers Britain to you. So, we are a small specialist tour operator based in the UK. We run trips in all of the UK islands and in Europe. We've been around for a long time.
Yes, it's part of the company was set up in 1975.
Wow.
Goes back, but Walks Britain certainly from the late 80s and into the 90s was very active with self-guided walking trips and some escorted trips. So that's kind of the heyday for all that.
Yeah, and running trips on the South West Coast Path for a long time.
Yes, definitely.
Since the late 80s. Anyway, John, tell us about yourself in the late 80s.
Yeah, so I started out as an outdoor pursuits instructor and then went on to expedition work and then came to work for various outdoor companies doing walks and treks. And my first experience with a group on the South West Coastal Path was in 1997.
Wow,
yeah,
well remembered.
Yeah, a group of Americans, very nice people, and we had a great time. It was lovely weather and long days under the sun, but just a beautiful experience. Yeah. And
myself, yes. So I'm Fiona, and I'm the Chief Product Officer here. It's my responsibility to make sure we're running the right mix of tours and create new tours, but also manage the ones that we already have. And I've been working on walking holidays for the last 30 years. I'm a lucky girl. I've walked all over the world. I've been up Kilimanjaro and hiked the Inca Trail, but I have also walked all over the UK, including parts of the South West Coast Path and in Scotland and Europe. And I particularly love the North Cornwall coast. That is my favourite area of the South West Coast Path. But let's get on to talking more about the trail itself. Why are we here talking to you about this evening? Well, it's one of our most popular.
Yeah, definitely. So we started off with the Penzance to Mevagissey walk back in the 1980s, really, and that remains probably one of the most popular walks, although we also have some St Ives to Penzance also very popular as well. Yeah.
And I think there's been a lot of publicity around this trail recently because of the Salt Path book, which was published a few years ago, and then the film, which came out recently, and then very, very recently, some controversy around whether the story is true or not. And irregardless of all of that, we think that it's a great trip. And actually the film depicts
it's quite realistic.
Quite realistically. The natural beauty, but also the difficulty of the terrain and the challenge that I think it presents for most people. So where is it? Where is it? So for those of you less familiar with UK geography, the South West Coast Path skirts the coast of 4 English counties: Devon, Cornwall, Dorset and Somerset. And it's right down in that little southwest corner of England that juts out into the Atlantic. You are as far south and as far west as you can get in the UK mainland. The trail starts in Minehead, actually, which is on the north coast of Somerset, and it follows the trail actually goes through Exmoor, very wild upland area, before kind of hitting the Cornwall coast, and then sort of around the toe of Britain to Land's End, and then around the south coast of Cornwall and Devon and Dorset, where it ends at Poole Harbour.
So on this trip, you both go to the farthest western part of England, not Scotland, and the farthest southern part of England too.
Yeah, so some facts and figures further to that. This is actually the longest national trail in Britain. It's over 1,000 kilometres, 630 miles. Typically, people who do the whole thing take 6 to 8 weeks. We don't offer it as the whole thing in its entirety yet. We may do at some point in the future, because it's such a massive undertaking in terms of commitment of time, but also the kind of pressure of having to walk so far, I think is quite a big thing. But it's been a national trail since the 70s, but the history of the path's quite interesting, isn't it, John?
Yes.
Explain.
So basically, there's trails going along some of the cliffs for many centuries, trade routes, etc. It wasn't really a salt path as such in terms of taking salt, although that happened to some degree. But largely it was for the customs men who tried to stop smuggling, especially from the 17th, 18th and early 19th centuries, which happened a lot along especially along the Cornish and the South Devon coast as well. And also there was paths for fishermen who went up to various promontories, and they looked out for the pilchard migrations. So pilchards were a huge fishing industry back in the 18 and early 1900s.
Yeah. Hence all the little fishing villages.
Fishing harbours and towers and huts where they used to wait and watch for them to come in.
Yeah. So it was like a natural long-distance trail.
Yeah.
So when it became a national trail, it was just a matter of like drawing all of those things together and waymarking it. And the trail is very undulating. All of those coves and beaches and cliffs and headlands mean that you're kind of doing this a lot. And the cumulative ascent is massive. It's like climbing Everest 4 times if you do the whole thing. That my knees just tremble when I think about that one.
Yeah, knee braces are definitely
definitely worth it.
And poles.
Yeah, definitely poles. And there are sections that are listed by UNESCO, the Jurassic Coast, which is very famous for fossils, and it's great for wildlife as well.
Yeah,
John, that's something you're interested in.
Thank you. Yeah, so on that as well, about a third of the whole South West Coastal Path is actually run or looked after by the National Trust, so it's quite well preserved. And some sections, like the Lizard on the south, have very good summer views of whales passing through sometimes, and basking sharks. And there's been a chough, which is kind of a crow, kind of a recolonisation of the lizard too. And you also see peregrine falcons flying, and you will see the seals as harbour and grey seals. Grey seals are more prevalent, but yeah, beautiful. And some other areas during the main breeding season of birds, between April and July, you'll see things like guillemots and fulmars, kittiwakes, and also puffin island near Padstow.
Everyone loves a puffin. Everyone loves a puffin. Anyway, we're going to show you some nice photographs now of some of the things that you might expect to see along the way. And this is one of those little old harbours. This is the harbour at Coverack, which is on the Lizard, which is a peninsula just to the south. To the east of Land's End.
That's right. So Coverack is an archetypal kind of bay, historically used for pilchard fishing, and also famous in the smuggling times. Behind it, there's a village called St Kevin, where you have 400 people who were buried from shipwrecks.
Oh my goodness,
because just off of Coverack, there are the Manacles, which were a major shipwrecking site.
So the wrecking was like shining lights at ships to confuse things. The boats would wreck on the rocky shores, and the people could plunder everything that was there. And that is famously written about by Daphne du Maurier in Jamaica Inn. Anyway, Land's End, here it is. That little corner we were talking about. You're a very, very long way from New York. And you're quite a long way from John O'Groats, which is the furthest part of the UK to the northeast, right up there in the top of Scotland. And an iconic place to visit, and on quite a few of our itineraries that skirt around the little toe of Cornwall. Yeah,
just saying, historically, it wasn't obvious that was the most westerly point in England. There's Cape Cornwall further up the coast, they thought was for a long time.
Like we thought the Earth was.
Exactly,
Okay, moving on. And tin mining.
So tin mining, very important. A lot of the coastline around Senna and around to the north, St Ives, you have these old chimneys of the old mine shafts and the gear workings, which have largely gone. There is one major mine, which is a large museum now. It's the largest mining museum in the UK. That's Givor, and there's an old beam engine which is fired up occasionally, which used to pump water out of the shafts, and they used to run the gear, wheels, etc. as well. Tin mining was very important since Roman times. They found ingots from the Roman period, which have come from Cornwall. And they also mine for copper and arsenic.
Yeah, and the Poldark series, which is a series of books and a TV series, was all based on that tin mining background and the smuggling. And this is St Michael's Mount. This is near Penzance, and there was a monastery here from, I think, the 8th century of Benedictines, connected to St Michael of Mont Saint-Michel off the French coast of Brittany. This was a destination for pilgrims who would travel here because apparently in the 5th century there was a sighting of the Archangel Michael, and hence the building of the church and the monastery. There is a pilgrimage trail to this day, which is actually part of our Taste of Cornwall trip that crosses the peninsula. People would travel from the north, and the easiest way to get to the monastery here was to cross by a trail that goes inland. It's a very attractive and interesting place to visit. It's owned by the National Trust, but it's accessed by a causeway.
Causeway for a couple of hours at sort of low tide. But most of the time it's boat access, which is quite interesting. Another interesting thing about it is that if you do the Camino Inglese, this section of the this section of the walk counts as part of that. Going from, if you do the St Michael's Way.
Okay, so it's a proper pilgrimage trail.
It's actually,
you get lots of very pretty villages, as well as the little fishing coves. And I think it's not unusual to see the old-fashioned thatch roofs, and also really quite old buildings. This is quite a remote part of the UK, and until the 1870s was very hard to get to. You could only get there by boat or by very difficult overland journeys with horses and carts. It was the railways that really changed things. So it's been quite unspoiled and remains quite traditional, very far away from industrialised Britain. And of course, you have the really interesting Jurassic Coast area, which is to the south, Exmouth, Lyme Regis, around that area. This is Ladram Bay with the sea stacks, UNESCO listed, fossil hotspot, dramatic landscape, and a real living coastline. It's still constantly changing because of erosion and landslides, and it's visually very stunning. And you can go and collect fossils there. I think we've got a picture of one of the fossil beaches. There it is. That's the beach at, let me just remember. It is at Charmouth.
So low tide, when you're at Lyme Regis, you can walk out to Charmouth Bay, and quite often there's been sort of a collapse of the cliff, and you can go through some of the soil and find fossils there, like this ammonite. That'd be a bit hard to pick that one up.
That's quite a good one.
It's quite a good one, though. It almost looks like a sculpture, but I think it's a real one.
And if you're really interested in fossils, Lyme Regis has got a couple of really great museums. There's a dinosaur museum there that you can go and visit, and another museum dedicated to the history of the Jurassic Coast, which is 185 million years old. And you can learn lots more about fossils and stuff there.
And
Marianne, yes, female lady fossil hunter.
Just other fossils to collect.
Yes.
On the early people there.
And also in Lyme Regis is this very famous site. It is the Cobb, the harbour, famous for being the scene, or the setting for the last scenes of The French Lieutenant's Woman with Meryl Streep, featured in Jane Austen's Persuasion, and a kind of iconic site. It's a 13th century construction, or was originally constructed in the 13th century. And Cobb, I think, apparently means like a lump mass, and it's quite a big protective lump for this little harbour.
So originally it was in wood, and then I think from the later medieval period they rebuilt it. And you've got to be very careful. You can see it slanting there. If it gets very windy,
you don't want to be rolling off.
You don't want to be in the wet.
Hang on to your fishing.
Yes, okay.
What else? Oh yeah, here we are. Waymarking. The trail's really well waymarked throughout. And of course, to be honest, you just keep your seat, you keep the sea to your right pretty much most of the time, and you can't go wrong. There are some sections where it goes inland. We do provide our customers all with a really easy to use smartphone app, so you just follow the blue dot on your phone, and we provide lots of information through the app for you as well, making it really easy to navigate. But I think the fact that it is a well-defined trail and really well waymarked means that it's a great self-guided experience. And even if you've never done self-guided before, it's probably quite a good one to start with, because there are some places where route finding can be a little bit more tricky.
So it's not super remote in most places, and you get these very elaborate signposts. In some places, you just get finger posts with a little oak
the acorn.
acorn on it. Yeah,
yes.
as a waymark. Yeah.
Oh, and this is St Ives, which is one of my favourite places.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful pink sands.
Yeah.
There's
four beaches.
About 4 beaches there. So depending on which way the prevailing wind is coming from, you can go and spend time.
You can have some shelter for sunbathing. Also, St Ives is very famous for its artistic heritage. After the railways arrived in the late 1800s, a group of artists moved to this area. And Ben Nicholson was one of the famous ones, and Barbara Hepworth, one of the UK's most famous sculptors, lived here. And they went, like most artists do, for the quality of light. And it was cheap. It was cheap to live here. There was good daylight through most of the year because of its position south and west. And the town still has a really arty vibe. You can do art classes. The Tate Gallery is fabulous, well worth visiting. As you pointed out earlier to me, they've still got Turner paintings there, lots of more modern paintings. So it's kind of a lovely place, I would say, to spend a couple of days.
And some traditional pubs in there.
Yes. This is the Barbara Hepworth Sculpture Garden. You can visit her house and learn about her art and her studio. But the garden itself at the house is wonderful because it has all these beautiful sculptures, and I love their shape. They have this really kind of organic feel to them, and they are really interesting.
Quite holy as well.
They're very holy, Jon. Yes, very holy. Oh yes.
Oh yeah. So Cornish food.
Emphasis
on seafood. You've probably heard of the Rick Stein restaurant at Padstow. There's also the Lipstone restaurant, which is near Exmouth, which is a Michelin starred restaurant. So a lot of things based along crabs, lobsters, shrimps and prawns, and of course cod and haddock. And so you get these mega pilchards, maybe not many pilchards these days, but but certainly crustaceans and cod and haddock. And then you've got things like chowders and Cornish pasties, which are very interesting. So probably noticed that Cornish pasty has a crimpled edge of pastry. That was because the miners used to have them as a lunch snack, and they would just hold on to the crimped edge, which would get contaminated with arsenic, so they didn't ingest that.
Which would be unfortunate.
So they threw away the crimped edge and just ate the.
Okay, so you just get the main part of the pasty. And just on the food front, like even most pubs will have a catch of the day, but you really should book ahead for some of the really popular and famous restaurants. So once you've booked your trip, and if you really know where you want to eat and what you want to do, we recommend booking.
Now, is that a Devon or a cream or a Cornish?
Well, this is debatable because it depends whether the cream or the jam goes on first.
Yeah.
So what do you?
That's a Cornish.
Yeah. And what do you prefer, jam or cream first?
Definitely jam.
Yeah, I'm a jam first as well.
That's a Cornish cream too.
Yes, okay. But yeah, well worth it. Very good at the end of your day's walk. And just in terms of the walking, the trail is varied, and different parts of this part of the world feel and look very different. But the trail is pretty much dedicated, so you're not walking on something that you're sharing with, people driving cars most of the time. And the trail is usually sometimes very rocky, sometimes very straightforward, but usually quite well defined.
Yes, yeah. So this is a typical viewpoint. You've got headlands ahead, loads of headlands, and a long beach to walk on. So sometimes at low tide you can just follow the beaches round for miles, and at high tide you might have to go in the dunes or the hills beyond the beach.
How to get there? The best way to get to this part of the UK is by train. If you are travelling by public transport. From London, you can take the train to Taunton for the north, or you can take the train to Penzance for the south. And from there are branch lines that go to St Ives and Plymouth and Exmouth, kind of easy to get around. John's favourite method
definitely is, yes, so it's the overnight train from Paddington in London to Penzance, and you wake up to sound of seagulls, and you might see the sea, beautiful views of the sea, and you get given a bacon butty and a cup of coffee and send you on your way, and you get to Penzance. So that's a good way of approaching certainly the western part of the trip.
And you can get your own cabin. It can be really quite comfortable, and I love the romance of a sleeper train. If you are thinking of travelling in by air, then there are airports at Bristol on the north, and Exeter on the south, and at Newquay. These are pretty small airports though, not really doing many international flights, probably some flights from Europe and flights from London. But yeah, I would suggest travelling by rail is best. Accommodation.
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag with this lot. It's the thing you've got to realise about the South West Coastal Path is that it's busy throughout the year, and when you're staying one night, sometimes you have to take whatever accommodation you can get in a certain area. But we do try and get the
best available.
Best available.
Yeah,
so
we kind of know the places to go to and the places to ask. I think that our primary sort of priority is to get you close to the trail, because there's not it's always preferable to be able to walk to and from your accommodation without any transfers. Sometimes that's not always possible because the great places with small numbers of accommodations available get booked up. So the key thing is book in advance. I mean, and seriously, now booking for 2026 is a really great idea, because then we've got the best shot at getting you the best accommodation in the area. And it's important to remember a lot of the places you'll stay were not built as there's not purpose-built hotels.
Well, some things on Land's End, for example, purpose-built. But lots of them are small village pubs and small houses. Sort of,
traditional inns
and stuff
are
like that.
houses that have been converted into B&Bs. And that means that you get this incredible variety, different decor and different feel every night, and a different host. And they're usually pretty characterful and often very informative about things like the weather and the trail and the local area. They're usually very good at recommending places to eat.
Yes, which is an important thing, because you should also book up your evening meals, because it gets very busy. Yeah.
The trails.
Trails, yes. So Exmoor used to be more land with some inland trails. Basically, it's all up and down and continue up and down, but it's the varied degree of up and down throughout the routes that you find. Generally, the harder trails are the furthest west in Cornwall, which are around, for example, St Ives down to Penzance, and also going from like Padstow around to St Ives is also quite challenging as well. Some of the other trails, like South Cornwall, are softer, but with long undulations. It says there.
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember you're on a coast, and like you're going up to headlands and down to beaches, and up to headlands and down to beaches pretty much the whole time. I think the Jurassic section is possibly the most straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
But the Land's End lizard, that's pretty wild, but very, very beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Challenging walking, but I would say very rewarding. Definitely important to have really good boots that will protect you and have got ankle support because of the rocky terrain. You really need great waterproofs, and I would highly recommend taking a pair of walking poles with you, just because of the protection that will afford your knees from all of the undulating and the little steep ascents and descents.
You don't need heavy mountaineering boots, but cushion boots are good.
Something substantial. And you're actually going to be in one of the sunniest parts of the UK. I know we're an island known for our weather, but this is a very sunny part of the UK. We run the trips from March through to the end of October, and you will get longer daylight hours, of course, in midsummer. Average daily temperatures are highest in July and August. The rainfall is possibly depends on the year. We have some changing patterns with that at the moment, but generally the rainfall is lowest in May, June, July, and August.
So for perhaps for weather and wildlife, it's probably April to July is probably about the best time.
So one of the things that we are asked very often is which part of the South West Coast Path to choose, and I think that really is dependent on you, and there are some key questions you should ask yourself. Do you want easier or more difficult walking? Do you want to do a shorter trip or a longer trip? Do you want to do the whole of it in sections, one section a year at a time, or do you want to just go once? Do you want to learn about fossils on the Jurassic coast, or do you want the wild Exmoor feel? Do you want those fishing villages in Cornwall? Are you interested in restaurants in Padstow, or art in St Ives, or the legend of King Arthur at Tintagel and mermaids? So there are all the different sections that we offer, which we'll talk about in a moment, can offer something slightly different. So we've kind of split the trips here into 4 different sections. The first 2 are geographic. So Devon and North Cornwall Minehead, Westward Ho, which is actually the first stage of the route, and then Westward Ho to Padstow is probably quieter, I would say, with cliffs and smugglers. And then Padstow to St Ives, this is quite popular, but again, still quite difficult walking. Land's End and South Cornwall. The original trip that we ever offered was Penzance to Mevagissey. Is that right, Jon? That's still probably our most popular trip.
It's a beautiful walk. It's really a great mix of scenery on that one.
You get those lovely the creeks and the rivers that flow south into the sea.
And a couple of ferries, but quite long days walking on that one. So,
but a little bit possibly less undulation. And then we do a couple of longer itineraries as well, from Padstow all the way around, from the north coast all the way around to Penzance on the south. That's pretty much like the big Cornwall section in its entirety. And then we do St Ives to Mevagissey, so that kind of starts slightly further south of southwest of Padstow and ends in Mevagissey, moves slightly further around the south coast. And those two trips are longer, definitely not more relaxed because you're still covering long distances. But if you've got more time and you want to see more, then they're good options. And then we have two new trips as well. A Taste of Cornwall on foot is like a little sampler of Cornwall. It does a couple of days on the Southwest Coast Path, and also the St Michael's Way pilgrimage from St Michael's Mount to St Ives. And then the Jurassic section is something we've added recently as well. And this is a really nice short trip, 5 days. So you get that interest of the fossils and part of the coastal path there too, as well as a visit to Lyme Regis. So why choose us?
Well, we've been doing it for some time now.
So, I think we could happily call ourselves experts. We've been running trips since the late 80s, so that was a long time ago. And you and I have both been around for quite a while as well. Definitely. Our team are really, they know the trips really well, they know the geography really well, and they also know the accommodation providers and the guys who move the bags really well. I think we've got great local contacts and a good choice of trips. And I think probably unique to us, unlike a lot of other operators, we'll work with you and we'll very happy to book your trip very flexibly. So if you want upgrades where we can get them, or you want to extend your stay, or you want to amend the itinerary a little, we can do that for you and we're willing to work with you. Of course, you get the app with the mapping, luggage. We're here all the time if there's a problem. You just need to show up and walk. Places to extend. Extra time. Go on.
St Ives, definitely. Just love it.
Well, I would choose St Ives as well. I love St Ives too. It's a fabulous place. So much to see and do. It's got a lovely feel to it. If you are one of the trips that starts and ends in St Ives, definitely book extra nights. And one of the trips that goes through St Ives, I think there's only one that does that. Then I would recommend staying an extra night if you can. But Penzance also to visit St Michael's Mount. For the food, for the restaurants.
Very, very busy. Mevagissey is a lovely little fishing village, very nice. Charleston, that's Hand for the Eden project, but also it's got the harbour, which is filmed in the Poldark, usually with a sailing boat in there.
And there's some nice gardens around there as well.
So on the south side.
They get that kind of tropical conditions.
Semi-tropical,
And if you're a fan of the TV series Doc Martin, then Port Isaac is where that was filmed. And I think
any questions?
So would be delighted to answer any questions that you may have. And informative and helpful. And of course, we're here at any time to talk to you if you would like to ask anything separately.
So we have some time for a few questions. Lisa was asking, she's seen the film, The Salt Pot, and she's wondering how realistic the walking is compared to what she's seen in the film.
Sorry, could you repeat that? We weren't able to.
Sorry about that. I hope everybody else can hear me. Lisa had asked, she's seen the film, The Salt Pot, and she's wondering how realistic the walking is.
So that walking is quite realistic with the going down very steeply down steps into some of the little coves there and across the beaches, then up quite steeply onto hills and crossing some of the estuaries and it is fairly well filmed in that sense. I think they they were actually on site, on location with
I
most of that.
don't think, well, obviously it romanticised some things,
Yeah.
but and the landscape did look amazing because it is. But yeah, I think it was pretty accurate.
Yeah, pretty
it was
accurate,
a good
yeah.
idea of what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, they found it hard, and it is hard, but they also found it rewarding, and in places it's more straightforward and more beautiful.
Okay, good. Stuart is asking what the easiest section is.
Very hard to say. We were saying earlier about the section in Devon, Dorset area where you're walking along.
Yeah,
from
Exmouth to Lyme Regis is
yeah.
probably the easiest of the sections that we do,
Yeah,
but there's
probably.
still like the big headlands.
There's
to
lots of
go
ups and
over.
downs. I mean, if you climbed up from Sidmouth over the headland there, that's quite a big climb.
Yeah.
So yeah, but in terms of underfoot, maybe that is easier than some of the other sections.
I would say.
Okay.
And it's a shorter trip as well.
Yeah.
It's just 5 days, so it's less sustained. And
Okay.
actually, that trip is one of the ones where it would be easy to skip a section if you wanted to, because you're kind of not so far away from a road where there's a great local bus service most of the way.
Okay, good. Chrissy is asking what suggestions you have for solo travelers?
Oh, for
Solo
solo
travellers.
travellers. Oh.
Well, it depends on what she's interested in. That's the thing.
I think, to be honest, any section, and as a woman as well, who's walked on her own in lots of places in the world, I know this is a concern, I would happily walk any section of the trail by myself. Because although you can feel quite remote and quiet in some places, there are generally people around, other walkers that you'll bump into. You'll usually see them at your B&B or your hotel. But is there a better section?
Probably the ones to avoid would be like St Ives around to Penzance.
Yeah,
and also maybe the one before Padstow going in from Godfrey Head and stuff like that.
I think Padstow to St Ives would be a really nice one to do, because it's quite interesting scenery without being like the far remotest part of the area. That would be my choice. But also
good conclusion. Rodman is asking if you're supposed to walk in one set direction, because
basically we have our trips set up in a certain way. So
people always ask why that is.
Yes.
It's because it's the way that guidebooks are written.
So most of the guidebooks are written, and so Minehead was the original start of the South West Dorset Path, and so hence things come from stems from Minehead.
Yeah.
And so, but people do it in different directions, but we at the present time offer it in that way.
It kind of makes sense to do it this way because the guidebooks are written that way. That's where the route is always described, because the official start was Minehead and the end was Poole in Dorset.
Makes sense. Char is asking if we offer the complete path as one of the trips.
The complete path. We don't currently offer the whole thing, but watch this space.
It's developing.
And organising and booking the whole trail is quite a big. It's quite a big ask because we would be looking at 45 to 55 different accommodation bookings, and also making sure that it works and that it works safely and it works in a way that's comfortable for people. So it's something that we're looking at.
Okay.
What you can do is start doing sections of it. So if you wanted to walk the whole thing, and there are people who do this, they collect like a section a year. You know, they do the first section one year and the next section maybe later that year or the next. You can start walking some of the sections that we already offer.
Yeah, good. Judith is asking if she will have time to visit museums, restaurants, sites.
Yes, so it's usually you do need an extra day to visit some of the museums, because some of the days are quite long. Some of the shorter sections, if you're quite quick, you could certainly.
I think it depends how quick you are as a walker. I mean, some of the places you pass along the way as you go through the day. So it's not like you get to the end of the walk and then you want to go and explore, although that does happen in some other places. I mean, I think where there is a lot to see and do, places like St Ives and Padstow, it makes sense to add extra time if you can. Lyme Regis, definitely, I would say staying an extra day there if you're interested in the fossils, so you can go to the museums, really worth doing. But try and plan your day. If there's somewhere you really want to go, have a think about what time of day you might arrive, and we're happy to give advice on that as well. and help you decide whether you'll be able to fit it in. I mean, obviously museum opening hours are something else to be
That's
taken
right.
into account.
Quite a few things closed. Last entry at 4 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it makes it slightly harder. And it's not always easy to get an early start either.
Yeah.
Because bed and breakfast typically won't serve breakfast maybe until 7:30
Yeah.
or 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that can make it difficult to get a very early start unless you're happy to miss breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you want to like pre-book a restaurant, if there's a really specific restaurant that you want to go, you probably
Yes.
want to have to do that before you leave your home country, basically.
Maybe weeks in advance.
I think if you wanted to eat at Rick Stein's restaurant in Padstow, like look at booking when you book the trip. And if there are any other restaurants, really famous ones that you really want to book at, I would say book before you travel. And even on the trail itself, I think at busy times of year, so July and August, which are the UK school holidays, I would suggest booking most of your restaurant long before you go, giving them a call and just saying, I'm going to be staying with you. Can I book a table for this time? I mean, people sometimes ask us to do that. That's a very difficult thing for us to do because we don't know what time you want to eat, if they can't offer the time you want. And also, they need your number and contact details. And maybe sometimes there's something to discuss. But yeah, I would definitely recommend booking ahead at least a couple of days.
Yeah, good.
Lots of takeaways in most
There are lots of fish and chip shops.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Tim is asking if it's possible if he should bring swimwear on the walks. So
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
bring your swimmers. Definitely.
So if you're just doing maybe, definitely bring the swimmers. Some of the sections, the rocky sections around the Cornish headland, some of the beaches are not that safe to swim on because you have high tides and currents and stuff like that.
And rocks.
Yeah,
They chips on them. Yes,
that's right. But other sections have patrol beaches with safe swimming flags and stuff. So especially on the south and some of the northern parts of the walk of the routes, you'll find safe beaches. And there's a Beachwise website which gives you some advice on swimming.
Because
excellent.
some of the beaches have got lifeguards. I mean, Godrevy Beach, which is beautiful, is fully lifeguarded, and there are lots of places where you can swim very safely, and it's very obvious that it's safe for swimming. And the kind of more remote places, it's definitely worth doing some research. Yeah, just be careful. Yeah, but no, definitely take swimwear because it's beautiful.
Okay. Keith is asking what the conditions are like in October.
Very
October.
variable. So
less daylight.
Yes, you've got shorter days, and of course the rainfall levels generally go up. So the driest time of the year, as you see, is from March to June, and then rainfall does tend to go up a bit. So you might be exposed to more wetter weather. It can be a lovely time to go in autumn, though.
Yeah,
and you
the
get golden
colours quite beautiful, and also the trails everywhere will be quieter. So the villages will be quieter. You probably won't have to book restaurants as furiously, and I would say actually probably has quite a nice late season feel to it, and you can be very lucky with the weather at that time of year.
Definitely. Someone's also asking if it's possible to break up the walks. Because some of the walks can be quite long. Is it possible to break them up?
It's very hard because the stages are largely, I won't say they're set in stone, but those are the good distances to cover on the day. And sometimes it's hard to actually get any transport or accommodation into the so they're based on reasonable accommodation levels. And some sections you may be able to get inland and get a bus, but some of the bus services are not that
reliable at
regular.
weekends, for example. I think it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, breaking up a bit.
Breaking it up. I mean, in some places there's literally nowhere to stay and no roads, nothing, no access. There's just no way. You've just got to walk from A to B.
Yeah, otherwise you're just going to have to walk back to a coastal road or to a village somewhere and try and get a bus or a taxi. And there might not be that many.
Okay, good to know. I think we're down to the last question, which is how do I organize a packed lunch? And if you can give a price recommendation.
So most places where you'll be going to, most villages, they have bakeries and little supermarkets where you can get stuff for packed lunch. And quite a few of the B&Bs are used for making packed lunches for you. But knowing from experience, people generally prefer to make their own packed lunches from stuff in local local shops and stuff.
I mean, it's a great excuse to try a Cornish pasty.
Yeah.
You know, if you're staying in one of the towns or little villages, there inevitably will be a bakery doing Cornish pasties, and that is a brilliant lunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, most little towns will have shops and bakeries where you can pick up things to take with you. And some of the trips actually have, you know, there are little towns along the way. I know certainly Exmouth to Lyme Regis, you've got Budleigh, Salterton and Seaton and Beer, where you actually the journey naturally breaks so that you can actually stop and have lunch rather than have to take a packed lunch with you. But yes, it's usually check out the situation with the local shops, which we give you information about in our app, and also with your local with your accommodation provider.
And sometimes, quite often, in fact, when you come off the hills onto the beach, you find a kiosk or a cafeteria or even a van.
Yeah, lots
So
of cafes.
there's lots going on there. So you won't
That's
go
good.
wrong.
Lots of options. Thank you very much, both. I think it's time to finish up.